Strange, where did all the people go during Lunar New Year? Cities are empty, and even the countryside is desolate. What's going on? I suddenly seem to have realized something pretty scary. You know how during the New Year, the cities are empty. Everyone knows that. But now, it seems like even the countryside is empty too. It's so quiet and deserted in the villages. You think about it, China has 1.4 billion people. But where are they? Where do they all go? There's no one in the cities, no one in the villages. The more I think about it, the scarier the whole thing feels. I've even started to doubt if China really has 1.4 billion people. If we really do, where did all those people go? This year's Lunar New Year has left Chinese citizens with a sense of unusual quietness, with major cities like Beijing and Shanghai unusually empty. On January 28, 2025, which was New Year's Eve, a blogger posted a video showing just how quiet Beijing was during the holiday night. A blogger living just outside Beijing's second ring road reported that from New Year's Eve through to New Year's Day on January 29th, the entire city was eerily quiet, almost deserted. There were no fireworks or festive sounds, and the usual celebratory atmosphere was completely absent. Another blogger in Shanghai noted that this was her first time spending the Lunar New Year in the city and was shocked by how empty it felt.
Today I want to show you the streets of Shanghai, and let me tell you, it's really quiet. The roads that are usually packed with traffic are suddenly quiet. The streets are empty. It's kind of surreal, like everything is really ending. Shanghai's population is 80% from outside the city, and they've all gone home for the new year. So right now, aside from those who can't or don't want to go home, the only people left are those who call Shanghai home.
However, people returning to their hometowns for the new year reported a similar emptiness in the rural areas. Hey guys, why does it feel like there's no one around this new year? Maybe everyone's just staying in the cities and not going home anymore. I can't even find anyone to play cards with. Seriously, there's no one here. Look, the gates are all shut. There's no one. The new year should be bustling, but in the village it's so quiet, hardly anyone's setting off fireworks. A vlogger from Jiangxi stated that rural New Year celebrations felt incredibly boring, with hardly any pedestrians in sight. The streets were quiet and there were very few children. Neighbors were not visiting and the entire village felt silent. In this rural area, it's difficult to get around without a car, and the grocery shopping requires a 20-minute drive to the nearest town, which has no tall buildings, malls, or entertainment facilities. To reach the cinema, one would need to drive over 40 minutes to the city. Would you want to spend the New Year here? This man from Henan said that there were no sign of the New Year spirit anymore. Look at this, it's New Year's Day. Do you still feel the New Year vibe? The village is empty. It's so quiet you could hear a pin drop. And this is how we're spending the New Year? I don't think I'm coming back next year. You guys can come back if you want, but it's just not worth it. Many people in China feel that this year's New Year celebration feels extremely unusual and might go down as one of the quietest in history. Many have noted that making money is hard, and people are now opting for more rational consumption. Many people have abandoned big purchases, with stores selling New Year goods also feeling unusually empty. Wow, this year's Lunar New Year is just crazy. I've spent over 20 New Years in Sichuan, but nothing like this. First, the best restaurant here where we usually have our New Year's Eve dinner. In the past, if you didn't book a week or two in advance, forget about getting a table. But this year, I went to book in the afternoon and there were still tables available in the evening. I looked around and many of the rooms were empty. The vlogger also mentioned that after having lunch, they planned to visit a tea house to play mahjong. Upon arriving, they found that half of the rooms and seats were empty, with hardly any customers. Occasionally, two people would approach the staff asking for change, indicating that people are now playing mahjong at a much lower level, with bets as low as 5 or 2 yuan. This reflects a significant downgrade in spending, with people clearly feeling the financial strain. The blogger also observed that although convenience stores are plentiful, business is still slow, and many didn't even bother to put out New Year goods. Restaurants, despite being open, were nearly empty during lunch, and even high-margin businesses like foot spas and beauty salons were struggling. Overall, it's clear that the economy has been hit hard over the past few years, and the living conditions have visibly worsened. This year, most people are choosing to stay home, eating simple meals, not giving red envelopes, and avoiding ostentatious displays of wealth. One netizen commented, "Tonight, our reunion dinner feels like it's taking place in an empty area. In past years, every room would have been full, and there would have been people coming and going in the hallways. This year, it's so quiet. My wife bought all the fruits for the new year online. We didn't even visit the supermarket for anything besides meat and vegetables."
不知道大家发现了没有啊？
This year's Lunar New Year festival is unusually quiet, really strange. Not only did people stop buying New Year goods, but no one's even buying couplets or calendars anymore. There's a place in the market here that sells couplets. They've been there since the 20th of the 12th lunar month, which is January 19th, but no one's even asking about them. It's not just the city folks, even the countryside folks aren't buying them anymore. A vlogger from Qingtian County, Zhejiang, said that this was the quietest Chinese New Year in the 15 years since her shop opened. She had expected business to be better in the countryside, but there were hardly any customers, and the streets felt empty and cold.
今年过年是这样一种状况啊。
How's this year's New Year going? Usually I'll be too busy to even breathe. This year, I'm just sitting here doing nothing. Let me tell you, yesterday we had our market day. In previous years, in my 15 years of running a shop, we would make at least 30 to 40,000 yuan on this day. How much did I make yesterday? 15,000 yuan. A good day, we usually bring in 70,000 to 80,000 yuan, and the difference is stark. There's nobody. We've stocked up on oil and drinks, and at this rate, no one's buying. It's like there's no one around.
你看一下整个街
Take a look. The streets are dead. There's no one. In past years, it would be so crowded you could hardly move. People would be buying pork and other stuff. But now, these few stores selling fruits, nobody. What's going on? In the countryside, we rely on morning business. If there's no business in the morning, there's no business at all. It's tough, really.
One netizen remarked, "There's no one in the cities, no one in the towns. Everything feels gloomy. People aren't going out because they didn't make money, so they're too embarrassed to come out. Those who made money are afraid to come out. To put it simply, everyone's pockets are empty. The whole nation is in a crisis, and everyone feels insecure, no money." One vlogger claimed that this year's Lunar New Year is the most bleak and desolate in recent memory.
今年啊，绝对是我造。
This year's Lunar New Year has got to be the most disappointing one I've ever had. People who came back to the village are showing it on their faces. This year, we didn't make any money. The work's been tough. We don't know what's going to happen after the new year. When I chat with my friends, I realize they're really struggling this year, both with their work and family issues. I feel especially for those who are married with families, it's really tough for them. A blogger from Hunan stated that the new year in her hometown feels completely lifeless. Nearly every door is closed and few people are seen celebrating. Another man returning to his hometown pointed out that the new year in 2025 has exposed the flaws of rural life. He said, "It's New Year's Eve with just 1 hour left before the reunion dinner, and yet the village is eerily quiet. There's no sound of firecrackers, no people in sight. It's as empty as any normal day. There are no luxury cars parked around, nothing like the past when the village will be full of them during the holidays. The contrast is stark. Is this really how the new year feels now? Many people aren't returning to the village anymore, especially this year, when fewer people are coming back. A few years ago, there were always fireworks non-stop, and luxury cars will be parked in the village, flaunting a sense of pride. But now, people seem to have figured things out. They no longer care about showing off and just want to focus on living well and staying healthy." Another said that her entire family is staying in Shanghai because they can't afford to go back to their hometowns this year.
有1个星期左右就过年了。
I really don't have the means for it. I did the maths. A round-trip train ticket is 350 yuan. For 3 of us, that's 2,000 yuan. Then there's my younger brother's 2 kids, my sister's 2 kids, and giving 500 yuan to each kid for New Year's red envelope money, that's 2,000 yuan for 4 kids. I haven't seen my mother in a year and I want to give her 5,000 yuan. Not too much, right? It's far, and it's the only time I'll be back. Then there's the food, drinks, and gifts, another 5,000 yuan. So when you add it all up, without at least 10,000 to 20,000 yuan, it's just impossible. Looks like this winter, my family and I will have to stay in Shanghai.
A vlogger mentioned that the consumption downgrade in China has reached such levels that a new term, extreme low consumption, has emerged, referring to the lowest level of spending that ensures survival. This is a sign of a massive reshuffle across industries.
今年过年可能是我40多年以来感到是
This year's New Year might be the most unusual I've felt in my 40 years. Normally, on New Year's Day, you'd say nice things, but right now, I can't hold it in. Have you noticed? Family and friend group chats are so quiet, like the boss when handing out paychecks. In the past, people would rush to grab red envelopes like they were free supermarket eggs. But now, there's hardly any of that. And fireworks? It used to be that there'd be at least 3 tons of spent fireworks at the village square. Now, there's almost no one buying them. Fireworks stalls, the sellers' legs are going numb because no one's even stopping by. This is beyond my understanding. What's going on? Is the New Year vibe blacklisted now? Or have people just gotten tired of seeing relatives?
这马上都该过年了。
A female vlogger reflected that in past years, streets would already be bustling with people preparing for the New Year, and small vendors would be setting up stalls early to make their sales. But now, the streets are quiet, and business is worse than ever. She had hoped that after the pandemic, there would be a rebound in consumer spending, but the opposite has happened. Business has been steadily declining. This year, she has stocked up on goods for the new year, but it's proving harder to sell than ever. Consumers seem to have disappeared overnight. Yesterday, she took her child to the park, and even the park was empty. The shopping mall had a few customers in the food section, but the clothing, cosmetics, and beauty shops were all empty. Where has everyone gone? As China's economy continues to decline, the Chinese New Year, traditionally a joyous occasion for family reunions, has become a source of pressure for more and more young people. According to Voice of America on January 28th, reports indicate a new trend among young people in China. They are cutting back on their New Year spending. Professor Sun Guoxiang of the Department of International Affairs and Business at Taiwan's Nanhua University pointed out that this shift is influenced by multiple factors, with economic pressure being one of the most significant. The economic downturn has led to a decrease in purchasing power, and young people are increasingly focusing on rational consumption and actual needs, cutting down on the more expensive aspects of the holiday traditions. Some have even opted to stay where they are for the new year, avoiding returning home as a way of coping with economic stress. Professor Sun noted that traditional activities such as buying New Year goods, visiting relatives, and giving red envelopes, which usually come with high costs and psychological burdens, are increasingly being simplified or even skipped by the younger generation. The best part about not being married or having kids is no one can boss me around. Look, the holiday's coming, and I've just been lying at home like a lazy pig, with only a few bottles of cola in the fridge. I haven't bought any New Year's goods. Today, I just put up some spring couplets, cleaned the house, and that's it. I'm not visiting relatives, not meeting classmates or friends, nothing to see. First, it saves money. You don't have to visit relatives or give kids red envelopes. Second, since I'm not married, I don't have to go to my in-laws or my parents' house, right? And no need to buy gifts. The traditional Chinese New Year has always been filled with joy and laughter, as people working away from home would rush back to their hometowns to visit family, exchange greetings, and celebrate. However, over the past 20 to 30 years, these customs have quietly changed. I don't want to go back for the new year. It's not that my family's bad or anything. I've just gotten used to being on my own. Now, when I go home, it feels too lively, and I'm not used to it. Plus, the whole visiting relatives and paying New Year's calls, none of that feels easy. He added that the most important factor is that these relatives, whom you only see once a year, tend to compare everything, including incomes, in subtle ways. With work already exhausting, many feel that it's better to take the new year as a chance to rest and recharge, rather than engage in these social obligations. Seeing fireworks and firecrackers being destroyed and confiscated is the most ironic thing. If the common people set them off, it's pollution. But when the government confiscates and destroys them, it's not pollution? If the government doesn't want them to be set off, why not just stop production at the source? Chinese New Year is the most important holiday for us descendants of the Yellow Emperor. The UN even made it a public holiday. I don't understand why our so-called experts have to ruin such an important festival. Does anyone still remember? The 4 major festivals: Chinese New Year, Tomb Sweeping Day, Dragon Boat Festival, and Mid-Autumn Festival. During New Year, they banned fireworks. During Tomb Sweeping, they call it a civilized memorial and banned burning incense paper. Don't even get me started on Dragon Boat and Mid-Autumn. Now they're just about giving gifts. If this keeps up, in a few decades, who will even remember fireworks marking the end of the old year? I really hope these nonsense experts stop making stupid suggestions and leave our traditions alone. Some netizens argue that the disappearance of the Lunar New Year spirit is due to the significant loss of population, especially with the aging population. Older people no longer go out or spend money. All this is contributing to the downturn in businesses. People are gone in the south, in the north, in the northwest, and in the southeast. Where has the 1.4 billion population gone? Others suspect that the death toll from the pandemic may be much higher than officially reported. Almost half of China is spending the new year in hospitals. If you go to a hospital, it's bustling with activity. The CCP's extreme zero-COVID policy ended abruptly at the end of 2022, leading to a huge loss of life. The Ministry of Civil Affairs stopped releasing funeral statistics, raising suspicions of a cover-up. To this day, the government has not resumed publishing funeral data. What is the reason behind this? US virus expert Lin Xiaoxu suggested that one reason the government might not release the funeral data is that it allows the authorities to explain away the reduced population by claiming that people have migrated elsewhere. Similarly, if the number of newborns decreases and kindergartens close down, the government can attribute it to younger people not wanting to have children, thus preventing the public from discovering the real situation.